We get a lot of questions about what an astral battle looks like. And while not all of them are the same, I'm going to relate to you the experience that I had last night, and I think it will show what they could look like and how they might catch you in surprising ways. This picture I found very appropriate, and while I cannot confirm or deny that any of the members of the Grand Order of Draco Slayers is in this picture, if you look towards your left, you may or may not see someone who may or may not be involved, and we'll just leave it at that. My astral battle last night caught me off guard, really, and I have to admit that sometimes there's a lot of creativity involved. I don't know if they picked the battlefield, but they certainly picked one that I never saw coming. So, in my dream, I am lifting a relatively large weight over my head, and while I can one-arm press from 120 to 135 pounds, the weight that I was one-arm pressing over my head was quite larger, and this startled me awake in the dream because I realized the immense size of this weight and was just astonished that I could do this and realized that I was dreaming. When I realized that I was dreaming, my dream became an astral dream, and I was kind of swept away into a judo class where I was in my judo gi, and I was sitting on the mat, and I was going through some drills that I do on a daily basis. And there were other people that I recognized, but none of them seemed to be interfacing with me at all. When into my judo studio walked two grays, the gray aliens with the big black eyes. They were taller, much taller than I've ever seen, and they were dressed in judo gis as well. So if you could imagine what two grays, relatively large, dressed up in judo gis look like, I thought it was quite entertaining. And they walked in and they sat down and started stretching. They paid no attention to anyone else, and my old judo teacher came up to me, he's now dead, and he said, "Are these friends of yours?" And I said, no, they're not friends of mine. And he looked at them and he looked back over at me and he said, "Well, they know who you are." And I said, "Yes, they know who I am." And they said, "Well, I'm counting on you," and I won't say my name, I almost did. He said, "I'm counting on you to take care of this for me." And I said, yes, Sensei, I'll take care of this for you. They were glaring at me, and I could feel their hate, their anger at me, because I have taken care of them before. And one of them walked over to me and extended his hand, and I said, "Is this a hand of friendship, or is this a hand of challenge?" And he said, "This is a hand of respect, and a fight will follow." Now, they don't say this, but they say it in my head directly. And I take his hand and I shake it, and I can tell that he is very strong. Now, in my own personal life, I can close the number 4 Captain of Crush gripper from Iron Mind. My name's not on the list, but my name's well known, and closing the number 4 has been accomplished by me. So I could tell that his grip definitely matched mine. So I was like, wow, this is going to be interesting. Now, this is an astral battle, so physicality really means nothing, but there's a lot of confidence from being very physically strong that comes with this. Physical strength is often, not always, but often in the way that I trained and the way that the men who trained me. You cannot be physically strong without being spiritually strong. I have, however, met some very physically strong men that are absolutely devoid of any moral fiber, which I guess you could call spiritual in a sense, but they were dark and kind of broken. So I asked the Gray if this was going to be a friendly match, and he said, I will fight you in the way that judo fights. And I said, okay. So we follow rules, and when one man says, I surrender, then we surrender. And he said yes. So we grappled for a while, and I finally got to an area where I got his back. I got behind him, and his little neck was too small for me to choke. So I switched my positioning, and I put him in an arm bar, and felt like I was bending an iron bar between my legs, and finally he signaled that he had surrendered. So I let him go, and I gave him a bow, but he did not bow back, and I could feel the anger intensify. The other one came up and said, well, now you have to face me. And I said, okay. And he said, this time there will be no rules. And I said, I know. And he said, this time one of us will die. And I said, I know. And he said, then is there anything you wish to say? And I said, well, I wish to say that I'm sorry I have to do this to you. And we immediately went after each other. And knowing that this was an actual astral battle, my fingers went right into his big, black, bulbous, fishy eyes. And I pushed my thumbs right through them, and his hands were tearing at my shoulders and trying to get into my eyes now, realizing that was a good idea. And I reached as far as I could and pulled him up off the ground and foot tripped him, so I came down on top of him, and just all the anger in me came out. I was fish hooking into his mouth and gator rolling, so I could get into a position where I was behind him, but with my finger in his mouth, and I can come around with the other finger and fish hook him and actually rip open his mouth. And I was grabbing individual fingers and snapping them, and he was doing his best to do the same to me, but I had fully gotten the better of him. We rolled for a while, and I was using every dirty trick that I knew. I was elbowing him in the back of the head. I would shove his head down, and I would bring my knee up into his groin. And finally, I got into the position where I got a hold of an arm, and I could twist it and put my foot on his elbow and break it. And he was pleading with me to stop, and I said no. We engaged in the ancient rules of combat, and this continues. And I got behind him and levered up on his chin and put a chokehold on, but levered back with my body, and I could feel his spine break as I pulled up and began to twist, and I began to twist and twist and twist until I actually popped his head off. That is an astral battle. Now, I've woken up this morning and like I don't feel completely together. Like I feel like I fought someone. Like I feel like I did a long judo match. My neck feels out of place. My heart is still a little beating. Well, a little beating. It's still beating a little bit faster. But I feel good. So I know that I was challenged, and I know that I won. So in the astral world and in the physical world, I'm ready. And that filters down, and it'll manifest as a victory. So that's sometimes how things happen. You're not always a knight in shining armor, but that armor and that astral sword is always with you. And it needs to be there, and you need to be ready, because that's what an astral battle can happen anytime, anywhere in your dreams, and they will come for you, and they mean business, and at all times they must know that you mean business too.